Welcome back to the Trusted Podcast.
Our next guest is Tom Hawkins, Director of Distribution at Charles Stanley.
Tom spent 23 years at one business, Quilter. Today we're going to delve into whether that was a help or a hindrance.
Having spent time in operations, marketing and product, Tom wasn't a natural salesperson, but having overcome a debilitating stutter, he's now helping other people become brilliant public speakers.
Sit back, grab a hobnob and enjoy the content.
Tom Hawkins, welcome to the Trusted Podcast.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
First podcast, I believe.
Yeah, first official podcast. Done some video work before and webinars and stuff, but yeah, first podcast. It's glamorous studio here. So thank you.
It is.
First of many, hopefully.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you for coming. I know it's been a long old trip from the South Coast, so all the way up to the Northwest. Hope it's worth it. You've seen the sunny sights of St Helens.
No, definitely worth it. One thing that's been playing on my mind though, before we get started, is you always introduce these, and you have done here with grab yourself a cuppa. What's your favourite biscuit to dunk in a cuppa?
Mine's got to be a dark chocolate digestive.
See, I love a dark chocolate digestive, but they fall to bits. I think chocolate hobnob, which you kind of referenced earlier, I think they're the ones. What about you?
Yeah, well, hobnob is one of my favourites, but yeah, maybe a jammy dodger, a bit controversial.
Oh.
Yeah.
The mini
a
ones
mixture
are
of
good as well.
flavors.
You had the little kid-sized
You
ones.
can see all the comments coming in after this saying these guys have lost the plot.
Yeah, that post-dunk texture is important, right?
We'll have to start having them actually, won't we, for our guests when you arrive?
Anyway, enough about finance. Let's talk more about biscuits, the stuff that the people want to know.
Exactly. 23 years you've spent at Quilter, Tom. Self-described jack of all trades. Did you ever feel like maybe that would hinder you staying at a business for such a breadth of time, or did you always have confidence it would pay off?
Yeah, I think deep down I always knew that it was going to pay off. I think the jack of all trades reference is probably a reflection with hindsight, just because I've held many roles in different business units, different teams.
Yeah.
So 23 years at Quilter, and then moved on, and now almost 4 years at Charles Stanley. So only worked at two companies, but I think the experience that I've gained through those roles is probably now one of my biggest strengths, biggest advantages. I can see business through the lens of different teams. I can see when you get different business units working well together, the well-oiled machine, it does pay off, can pay dividends. So yeah, I think going from operations and client servicing, seeing how the technical aspects of the product actually do work, engaging with clients and IFAs, going into more proposition and marketing, so turn those features of products into benefits for advisors or your target market, and then moving into more distribution, sales and sales management, negotiating, asking for the business. I think it's felt like, although it's not been linear, it's felt like a really natural progression.
Yeah. Have you ever, because obviously you've got expertise in every area, do you ever struggle delegating to people that work for you?
I definitely used to. Yeah, definitely used to. I've had the great privilege of working with many great managers and leaders, especially over the Quilter time. I spent obviously 23 years, as you say, so spent a lot of time with some really good people who have given me some great advice that I've then looked to build into my own leadership style. One of the things that was said to me, back then was, you can't be omnipresent. It's just impossible to be omnipresent. Great leaders do delegate well. You also have to give people permission to do the things that they want to do. You've got to see people thrive, give them opportunities. So yeah, I definitely did struggle. I've got certain standards, I think, like most people do.
Yeah.
So there is that reluctance initially, but when you've got great people around you, you build great teams, then you do have that trust. It makes that delegation a lot easier. Yeah,
it's quite uncommon, isn't it? I suppose, especially in a distribution world, to see long stints in kind of quite a modern recruitment world. I've seen lots of CVs recently where it's 2 years, 2 years, 2 years, 2 years, and they've kind of done a little bit everywhere, but somewhere between longevity, there is a balance where you want to stay somewhere long enough to see the fruits of your labour, but potentially not too long to be institutionalised. How do you see that playing out for you? And when you're looking at candidates coming through, is that an observation you consider?
Yeah, I think the reason for move is always important. So you could be with a business for 18 months, 2 years, and that there could be a real reason why someone's wanted to move. A new door has opened, a new opportunity. So you have to bear that in mind. I think once you get past that 7-year itch, then you start to rethink. Do I see myself working even longer at this business? I mean, I've been blessed to have worked for 2 really good businesses. Soon to be 5 brands. So got very good at rebrands over at Scandia, Old Mutual Wealth and Quilter. And we're about to go through another one at Charles Stanley, owned by Raymond James. So we're, I actually never thought I'd leave Quilter, if I'm being honest, back then. But you don't know you need a fresh start and a new challenge until you've got one. What I did know was I didn't want to go to another platform. I didn't want to go out to the clients I've been working with and say, forget that green one I've been talking to you about. Here's a yellow or a blue one. So to move from the platform side of the industry into the investment management, discretionary fund management side of the industry was a challenge, and I enjoyed that. But back to the question on when I'm looking at recruitment, it's definitely that experience. You can get loads of experience in 18 months, 2 years with a business. It's got to be the right business, though.
I suppose you've served a significant amount of your career on the distribution side of things, so working with advisors. But sales wasn't a natural home for you, and you've done a lot on the self-development side of things. It'd be useful to talk a little bit about that. Yeah.
So most of my time at Quilter was really spent in operations and in marketing. So I had a really good handle on the product. So I knew. I used to see some great personal friends, some great people that are on the sales side that were excellent in front of advisors on stages. They were brilliant. They're great orators, great thinking on their feet. And I saw that as something that I was a million miles away at one point from that. Really wanted to step into that territory and have the confidence to talk in front of people and use my knowledge. But back then, if I go back, so a quick story, if I go back to, so from the age of 14, I developed quite a debilitating stutter, so quite a bad speech impediment. It still hangs around, and it still sort of shows up from time to time, but I've got different coping mechanisms now than I had back then. But it was a challenge that I saw that I wanted to overcome. So in that situation, you can do nothing and just carry on with life, or you can put yourself into outside your comfort zone and challenge yourself. So anyway, I had some great help and support both inside and outside of work. My mum was fantastic. She always had my back. My dad just took the mick out of my stutter, and that kind of made light of it, which is great because it helps me now, I think, not take myself too seriously and things. Anyway, fast forward to probably around the launch of Wealth Select was probably the first opportunity I had to get into the distribution side of the industry. I was head of proposition marketing at the time we launched Wealth Select. A great success, biggest MPS product in the market today. And I just really enjoyed the opportunity I had to talk to people, and every time whether it's on a stage, on a platform, or it was just talking to people around a boardroom table, when you walk away and you've conquered something like that, it's a massive sense of achievement. It's hard work, but and I knew from my first opportunity to go and speak publicly, that was something that I really enjoyed doing. I had to think very intentionally about it, and I think because that communication skill is a learned skill, it's not a natural talent for me. I think that's why I place so much value on communication. I think that's why I think very intentionally about how I communicate, what style I communicate in, whether it's the written word or spoken word. It is really important, and I want to see that in others.
Yeah, that's great. And I think as a BDM, whether you've got 5 years experience or 15, public speaking is always that there's a little bit of nervousness sometimes because you really care and you want to do a great job, or naturally it's maybe just not the natural way in which you will communicate. Have you got any tips for our audience when it comes to public speaking? Like, how do you settle your nerves? Anything people can lean into?
I've never been one to be able to wing it. So I know there's some people out there that have just got, loads of knowledge in the back of their mind that they can just call upon at any given moment in time and just deliver a fantastic show. I don't have that. So I have to think much more carefully and consider in a considered fashion when it comes to communicating, whether that's pitching to a room full of IFAs around a table, or on a boardroom table, or to an audience of 30 or even bigger, audience of sort of 200-300. I've always been one to prepare lots. I have to do my homework. I have to have a really strong opening. I have to make sure I feel like I've delivered my opening. I'm comfortable, and then you have to trust yourself that you do have that knowledge. So I do have a bit of knowledge and a bit of experience in here. So I think you need to trust yourself that you've got that knowledge, and then it will happen and flow naturally as long as you know your subject matter, and then always have that strong close as well, so that you are memorable. And I think that's where I've seen some great success when it's been a mixture of the technical side of things, but also there's been some realistic, maybe a little bit of humour, not too much, but you need to be relatable to the.
They're those memorable points, though, aren't they? Like the audience will not necessarily remember everything you said for 60 minutes, but they'll remember how it made you feel and little anecdotes or jokes and stories. That's what resonates with the audience, isn't it?
Yeah, you've got to be authentic, right? They've got to walk out, and I'm very conscious of personal brand and how I come across, and I want people to think positively about how I've made them feel in that presentation or that conversation or that talk.
You did some public speaking. What are your tips? Never asked you.
What are my tips? Definitely prepare. I think you're right. When you prepare, you automatically feel more in control and you feel a lot more confident. And I also think I would encourage everyone to look at your material, look at your slide deck, but ultimately jot down 2 points on each slide that you want your audience to walk away with or feel. And then it will just flow a lot more naturally. I think there's nothing worse than watching somebody talk to slides. You just lose the audience. When you can bring in tangible examples of your subject matter, straight away, like you just said, you're building credibility as the salesperson standing up in front of the room. I think what is quite interesting, I've always been a big fan of hosting my own events, whereas some sales and distribution teams want a certain person to travel around the whole country. But for me, I see that as an opportunity to prove myself to the advisors in the Northwest that I can help them and I know what I'm talking about. What's your view been on that as a leader?
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. Otherwise, you're just there to meet and greet and shake hands and then take care of the follow-up, which is equally important. You have to. But yeah, I think it helps you build your own profile.
Yeah.
I think whoever it is, having that ownership of even owning the invitation process, building that relationship and rapport with people, with your audience, those you want to come to your event, building that before you even get to the event, and then you stand up and do the whole introduction. You can start to build your own profile. Anything else from you? You then, Will. What would you add?
Well, I've got my groom speech coming up in 3 weeks, so I would say 3 or 4 glasses of fizz before. But no, I think that I'm exactly the same. There's been 2 really good speakers that have come onto this who work in sales training, Andy Barnes and there's Russell Wardrop, who both said the exact same thing. Practice, practice, practice. Andy suggests 30 times you practice a script, and that might be on how you handle a price objection. Practice 30 times and repeat that. So I agree. The amount of hotel rooms that I've been sitting in and everyone's in the bar and I'm thinking, I just need to go and through my slide deck a couple of times, and then you chop and change the order. And I think that authenticity is absolutely essential. I think the more pressure you put on yourself to deliver the perfect presentation, the less satisfaction you're going to take afterwards. And so I'm always comfortable with filling the gaps in with a bit of authenticity, because you're right. If you've done the work in advance, the knowledge is there behind you. Whether it comes out in the exact order that you want it to, it doesn't really matter, because then you're avoiding the scripted or the robotic feeling. So I'm in agreement. I think it's got to be practice, and then just not be too hard on yourself when it's not perfect, and just take some satisfaction from the fact that you've got up and pushed yourself and gone outside your comfort zone, because that's a win, even if there's no new wins off the back of it.
And it shouldn't be a memory test. If you're into that territory, so you practice too much that you try and use it as a memory test, then you're going to fail, because you won't remember every single word in every order, as you say. So yeah, to take that pressure off you as well. Give yourself a little bit of leeway in letting some of the natural content come out as well.
You can kind of see that from your leadership style, that kind of supportive element to it. But since becoming such a senior ranking figure at Charles Stanley, there's lots that people don't tell you about leadership, and I think it's always an aspirational role, whether you're an advisor wanting to be the MD, or whether you're a BDM wanting to be head of sales or above. It's not always as cut and dry as people think it is, and I'd be interested to get your thoughts on what people don't tell you and what people don't prepare you for, and what you would teach others.
Yeah, so I guess people do tell you that it's about the people, right? But I don't. It's the extent to which it's more about the people than the plan. It's probably one of the biggest takeaways that I've learned. So clearly you have to have a plan. You have to have a business plan. You have to have everyone put in the same direction to deliver on that plan. But you can have the best plan in the world for your business. If you haven't got the people motivated and engaged in the right environment, you're never going to achieve that plan. So it's the extent to which the focus should be on the people. I think, again, I'm going to repeat myself here, but I've had the good fortune to work with some incredible leaders across Quilter and across Charles Stanley. Some not so incredible leaders as well at the same time. So I think I've always been one to take some of my learning and experience from observation. So watching what people do, how people make me feel as someone who's worked for people, is I always know how I've felt most valued, and that's probably when I've felt listened to and heard. So if I felt like my voice is being listened to, I've had some great ideas, I want to feel like people are listening to me. So now I've adapted my leadership style to make sure that in the teams that I work with, everyone's got a voice at the table. Not every idea or suggestion gets taken forward, and you need to be able to manage that with people as well. And some won't share ideas, some won't be comfortable initially, but as long as they feel like they've got the opportunity to share those ideas and speak openly and freely in those open forums, then that's probably one of the most important things. But yeah, focus on the people. I think when it comes then onto kind of the cultural side of things, people just need to that they're looking to follow an idea or people or a team or a culture. So you have to lead by example. I think the emphasis really needs to be placed on that. You need to, watch every step, watch every word, watch every movement that you show off, because how you show up at work as a leader is massively important. And I think you can read that sort of stuff in textbooks and learn it from people, but the extent to which that is important probably didn't really land with me until I've been on this side of the fence. And again, I've had experiences where my first attempt didn't work, and I didn't get the results that I or the business wanted, or the teams wanted. So you have to refine, and but yeah, just I think focus on just how important it is to keep people on side, and good leaders have people that follow them.
And managing such a big team as well, you'll deal with, staff members that have different learning styles and different, levels of talent and things like that. How have you managed that? I guess you have to be a bit of a chameleon as a manager to some degree. Yeah,
to some degree. The most important thing is you need to know the person. So you need to really understand what motivates each individual, what they don't like, their background, where they see their future. And again, from personal experience on the receiving end of it, I've had some amazing opportunities through doors that have opened for me by people around me. I want the same for other people. I've been focused on betterment through my life, my sporting career, my career at work. How to be better today than I was yesterday. I think more people than not have that in them as well. So understanding where they want to get to, what their hopes and dreams and aspirations are, and then you can flex your own style. You might need some external support from facilitators, from trainers that come in, and you might point that towards some people rather than others, or focus that on others. But yeah, you do have to adapt
Lean
your
in.
style and adapt the training and support that you give the team in different ways.
It's interesting that, I mean, I took on the head of sales role last September, and it's been so much harder than I thought it was going to be. I think that, especially being on this side with Trusted, and we meet lots of, really important people who are incredibly impressive, who talk all about the processes to follow, and you think, I'll take a bit of that on, I'll take a bit of that on. Then you get there and it's completely different. And I think the differences in team members has probably been the most stark thing, because you start to speak to somebody about goals and ambitions and obstacles, and you realise how diverse it is. Even two characters who may on paper think alike have got different challenges, because there's different things going on behind the scenes. It might be family related, it might not be, and you think you do have to have a love for people. And you mentioned about being a cultural carrier before, and I love that terminology, because again, it's trying to find people who are going to come in, even if they do have a diversity of thought or background or whatever else it is, having that belief in the system and the people and the objectives. That seems to be so important. So that's been a really eye-opening moment for me. It's just the diversity of people's circumstances going on behind the scenes.
How have you tackled that then with those?
I think that Luce mentioned the word chameleon before, and I think that there's some truth in that, although I try to make sure I'm always kind of true to myself. I think that a big part of the way that I always try and lead our team is I'm not that bothered if people think I'm their best friend or whatever else it is, but I want them to respect me and I respect them, and that therefore I think that we are full of experts, even though they might not perform to the same metrics always the same. I think that there's lots of really good ideas that come through, and I think it's having that nurturing nature for the people who are coming through and need time and patience and support, and then for the ones who are super talented and already there, is kind of not getting in their way. So I think it's holistic is probably the word that you'd look at it, where everyone's an individual, everyone's going through the same thing, but that they all take comfort in the fact that you would run through brick walls for them, and hopefully them for you. So I'm less gushy, I'd say, in my, if I say a compliment, I really mean it. I'm not just doing it for morale purposes, but I think it's that element of being able to take a step back and say, am I needed in this person's career at this point? But making sure they know that you are there should they come about, I suppose. But
I think the best leaders as well really allow their teams to take accountability and lean into certain strengths and weaknesses. You could have someone on your team whose technical knowledge is 10 out of 10, but maybe communication skills could do with a little bit improvement. Equally, you could have someone that's brilliant in front of clients, but maybe could do with a little bit more technical training. So I think you have to trust people and let them lean into what their strengths are ultimately, because there's not one way. We're talking about sales here. There's not one way to sell. If there was, we'd just clone one person or have a robot to sell. People buy from people, and that's the beauty of this industry, I think. It's about relationship and connection.
It's interesting though, because the conundrum that you've got to solve as manager, as leaders though, is making sure you deliver that feedback in a way that is going to be received in the right way. And some people just aren't open to feedback, right? So can you help them get to a position where they can be more receptive to feedback? Because it's important for everyone at every level. But yeah, just as the point you mentioned there, Lucy, you have to. There comes a time when you have to might have a frank conversation with somebody because they're just not hearing the feedback that you're giving.
Yeah.
Whether that's communication style or it's technical knowledge or whatever it may be. So a lot of it is down to the person, individual, taking accountability for their own development as well, but also being open to feedback.
It's the challenge. I think that's always been a good part of the sales structure. Is when you're speaking with an advisor or an advisor speaking with a client, is to make sure you're on the same level playing field, but the willingness to challenge people, whether it's a team member or whether it's a client, to think differently and that kind of thing. It's having that kind of confidence to be able to do that, especially when they're pissed off. I think that sometimes I'm a bit blunt or direct. I think I come from like a rugby, tough love background. And I know you mentioned kind of your sporting background and that kind of thing. And I think it does help you give feedback. It's just how you take the sting out of it that sometimes I reflect on and think, could I have been a bit softer on that one? But at least they know where I stand.
It does also depend how quickly you need to implement some change and drive some results, right? And obviously, sport you need immediate success in most sports these days. In business, a bit longer lead times. You can be a bit softer, probably, but yeah, you have to be on that same page. But yeah, people have to be receptive. Also, in coaching, I say you're there to do the things to help people get to a place they want to, but they can't get to themselves.
I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's setting expectations, or if you are about to deliver feedback, set the scene and explain the reasons why. Like, I really want to help you get better at this because this is going to benefit you and your career and your credibility and your brand, and turning it really into a positive, because as a leader, as you know, you're coming from a place of care. You want to lift everyone up around you. So I think sometimes just sort of explaining the reasons why can be quite motivating before you deliver that.
So we've talked a little bit about culture and business. And one of the bits that we talked about in the preamble was this idea of the shifting of mentality away from sales targets to business targets. And again, this applies, I suppose, to both the product providers listening to this, but also then to the advisors who are listening to this. And sales target might be less used, but they may have a metric that equates to that. Whereas you think differently on this. So what's your thoughts and what's the reasoning behind that?
Yeah, if it's solely sales who are accountable for delivering targets, then you're limiting the ability to hit your targets, in my opinion. The second you start to share the load and you start to share those targets around the business as such, and everyone's personally invested in driving success and achieving those targets, you've got a much better chance of hitting those targets. So share them with, obviously finance will be involved in the target setting process. So finance, HR, operations, marketing, risk, compliance. If everyone understands what the goal and the ambition is for the business, they're much more personally and collectively invested in achieving that success. You can go and if you need some colleagues around the business to help you fill in an RFP, an RFI, then, and they know that why you're doing it, why you're asking, then they'll be much more willing to part with their time, share their wisdom and do that, rather than it just feel like a tick box exercise for them. We've got some really exciting goals and plans at Charles Stanley, Raymond James, and it'd be great for the whole business to share in that success, not just a sales team, not just a marketing team, not just a finance team. And when you do celebrate that success, bring it full circle back to the cultural side of things, you can unlock some amazing cultural experiences for people in that business. The togetherness, the collaboration, the collegiate feel that you have in those businesses I've experienced previously is like nothing else. But whereas if it's just sales on their own, it can almost create a bit of a them and us mentality, and it's, well, their sales targets over to you, you go and hit them, but we need your support. We can't just do it on our own. So yeah, I'm quite passionate about the fact that everyone should be at least aware, but also invested in, supportive of, and be pushing in the same direction.
Yeah, nice. It's interesting, isn't it, how just like simple language can reframe people's motivation. Because for example, at Triple Point, we get together as a sales team once a month, and we used to call them sales days, and we shifted it to be like the development days. Because the language straight away is like, no, I'm going here with the intention to develop. And it's just interesting, I think, how language can really help you know your purpose. It's like knowing your why, isn't it?
Yeah. You touched. Go on.
I was going to say, we've actually taken it a little bit further, and we've actually dropped sales from our team name.
Nice.
And we've called it the Intermediary Partnerships team. I don't think sales is a dirty word. I think you need sales. I know some people have that thought and have made that suggestion, but you definitely need a sales mentality. You need a growth mentality. But I think the industry has evolved and matured so much and has become much more professional. I'm interested in your views on this as well, to such an extent that I don't think people are asking for salespeople to come and speak to them anymore. I think they're looking for support and partnerships and imparting your technical knowledge on them. And that might result in a partnership moving down towards using your solutions. That's my view. That's what
I agree.
We've only just recently done that in the last couple of months.
I agree. Like if I am doing the public speaking, which Will says I do a lot of, I wouldn't stand up and say, hi, I'm the salesperson at Triple Point. I'd say, I'm Lucy. I want to be an extension of your business for tax planning. I want to help you. I want to understand you. I want to understand your client bank. And I want to help you get better at this. It's like, it's not about me and a salesperson. It's about what I can do for your business.
I agree. I think that you're right to say that people still need a growth focus to them. I think that that's been a big discussion point as we've gone through the 25 odd episodes. Is sales a dirty word? Are advisors salespeople? All of the bits that it's
That's
kind of
always a good debate.
It's always a good debate because there's always massive difference in opinion. But I think that there's two things to this, so you just have to bear with me. That you're seeing far more advisors refer to themselves as planners, and I think I'm hearing more and more in the 40 odd interviews that I've done in the last 6 months, the word consultative selling. And I think that it's become a buzzword. And I think the majority of people, when they say it in a interview process, mean not pushy. Whereas actually, I think the real depth of consultative selling is right. This idea that an advisor can ring you. And I saw this last week with one of the guys who looks after our Northwest patch, said, have you got any advice on back offices? You know, this guy's selling MPS, why is he asking him? But he sees him as a point of authority and an expert within his field. And so I think the word consultative selling gets knocked around a lot. But I think that the truth in the word consultation is what advisors are really looking for, is to not have somebody who's there to sell a product, but somebody who's there to sell a benefit that leads to a product to match them to that solution. So I completely agree with you. I don't think we should hide behind the phrase sales and, you know, be wary of it, but people should challenge themselves to be less about the product distribution and more about how do we help advisors or whoever you are working with get better at that particular part of their discipline.
Yeah, I completely agree. And although we've made that change, that conscious change on the team, it doesn't really matter what you're called, what you're referred to. If the people that you're seeking to create relationships with see you as an extension of their business, as you say, Lucy, or just a partner or a trusted advisor, then that's a really strong position to be in. I do think people just need to understand what consultative selling truly is, the art of questioning properly. And it, like you say, it's not just I'm not a pushy salesperson, but it's, you know, it's some of that theory, because that is the art of selling. It is not asking a question that starts with the word why. It is about, you know, one of the things we used to do at Scandia back in the day was use the TED model, the tell, explain, describe. So you can start off a question with, so tell me the reason behind your decision to, rather than saying, why have you chosen to go with that platform? Because it places some level of assumption that might be the wrong decision, or you don't approve of that decision they've made. So I think you just understand the science behind it as well.
But I think that's what builds trust as well. Like if I think to our role, like dealing directly with financial planners, IFAs, for me, some of my best relationships of where I have pushed back and said, oh, I understand why you've done that, but actually what other advisors have found is when they've done this instead. And having that confidence, because I think if I look back to earlier on in my career, I remember being a petrified 18-year-old trying to sell MPS funds. And I always felt like I didn't deserve to be in that financial advisor's office and they were going to ask me things that I didn't know the answer to. But the minute I became confident, that really changed things for me. And I think automatically I went from being like a child trying to sell to an adult, not physically, but like mentally, to no, I'm an adult and I can help you and you're an adult and we can work together. So I think confidence is a really big thing. Being comfortable to challenge.
To walk away. You know, the point is you don't have 100%. To be all things to all people. You know, you want something, I've got it. If it fits, let's work together. If not, that's okay.
Yeah.
You mentioned as well, and I thought it was really interesting. So you talked about how reframing from sales targets to business targets, I think, enforces quite rightly some enhanced collaboration across businesses. And one of the most underutilized relationships that you've seen is always between sales and marketing. And I can just anecdotally add into this, I've seen both sides of this. I've seen when it was the sales team who sit on the 6th floor and they're out of the way, and nobody really knows what goes on over there, but someone's just come in a new BMW and wonder why they've got that, because nobody's kind of collectively involved. That's just my experience. Okay, there's no bad words to say. It might be completely different, but then you see the other side of it, and it's everybody understands the mission. And suddenly the marketing team, when you ask for help, they're not just sticking your logo in the top corner of a presentation that Claude can do now. They're truly thinking about the messaging and the distribution and the bits that go with it. So just curious to get your take on that, really.
Yeah, I've seen both sides of it as well. And any business in any industry needs a sales and marketing team that are in perfect harmony, in my opinion. The best brands, the best products are distributed to their chosen markets by great sales and marketing teams. I think you've got to have that respect. There's got to be that mutual respect. Back to the example of when you had that confidence levels and you start to challenge advisors, you have to be confident in both parties. So we did two things really, really successfully at Quilter. One was under the old Mutual Wealth brand. And it was the two great examples of incredible collaboration between sales and marketing. We had a sales and marketing plan for both of these. So one was the launch of Wealth Select, where I was head of proposition marketing for at that time, and the two were in lockstep. We every message was carved out, especially at the time. And you think back that we had at Scandia, we'd gone out to financial advisors and had a brilliant reputation for helping them create their own portfolios and running their own portfolios. And we were about to launch a product to go up to them and say, remember that thing we told you to do a decade ago? You should really stop doing that now and start outsourcing to an investment manager. So every message had to be perfectly aligned. The delivery of that through press, through advertorials, through presentations, through sales pitches had to be aligned. And that was perfectly executed. And then the second one was probably the replatforming. And I was on the sales side of the fence then for that replatforming exercise. Again, learned from the experience of the Wealth Select launch, and we created a sales and marketing plan that had multi-channel, different mediums being used. We had SMEs across both sides of the business that really worked collaboratively together to make that plan work. I've also seen examples where there has been a real them and us relationship and atmosphere that just brings frustration. You both end up looking at each other, expecting the other party to do the thing that needs to be done. And you're never ever going to be successful. So I think you have to start building that trust first of all. You have to start building that mutual respect. You have to recognise that there are some SMEs over on the marketing side that know how to communicate to people effectively, and there are some SMEs on the sales side that know how to ask for the business, that know how to pitch strongly for the business, and then ultimately win that business. So yeah, you have to work together and create a great segmentation model, create a great marketing distribution model. Without going into the detail now, but yeah, it is one of those things that I think if you focus on your own territory, your own world, you can lose sight of how important it is to be collaborative, especially between sales and marketing.
I think that's really important. And talking around marketing and distribution and the different areas, you've mentioned about collaborating across industry as well. So how do you find that in your career? Because sometimes we can be very focused on, the enemy is the competitor and I'm not going to work with them. I don't want to do anything about it. I'm just going to focus on this. But you've had lots of success collaborating. What can you share with our audience on that?
First of all, there's more than enough to go around for all of us. And also, think back to the point you made earlier around when you're coaching people in your team, people have got different preferences. People in the market see things through a different lens. They might have an experience where your solution might not be right for them, but somebody else's will. I think you can learn a lot from speaking to lots of people. The industry is it's small, but it's big at the same time. I think you need to be one for gathering as much information as possible, as much insight and intelligence across the industry. And what better way to do that than sitting across from the enemy, as you say, Lucy, and just having open, honest conversations. I think you've got to respect other people in the industry as well, and never be one to throw mud at competitors. I think it's don't think it's helpful. I think it jeopardizes the trust that advisors, 100%. Your clients will put in you. why are you saying those things? Equally,
how desperate are you?
Yeah, exactly. And don't get me wrong, there's moments of desperation in anyone's career, but you should always refrain from doing that. Never step into that territory. It's very difficult to build your own brand back up again once you've started to throw mud at others. But equally, no competitor is going to share their deepest, darkest secrets with you, their future product design. They're not going to share their best ideas with you. So you're always in sort of that territory where you're just learning enough to build a rounded view of the market. And it might help you in your objection handling. It might help you in your pitching. It might help you in some of your conversations that you have with your advisors, your target market. So I think, just having knowledge. Also, there's some great people. So not just knowledge and intelligence. I like people. I like socializing with people. I like spending my time with really good people. The conversation I've had with people through industry events has been excellent. You never know when you might need a job or they might need a job. Yeah,
your network's so important, isn't it? Whether you're financial advice side or on our side, doors will open for you because of the credibility that you've built with your network. And I think it's really important, as you say, how you conduct yourself. But I agree on the competition side that we should always be professional, but ultimately knowing our market enables us to sell against that as well, which is obviously a key skill. And I think it comes back to what you mentioned earlier around being that consultative seller. When you know your market inside and out, not just your product. So I've had clients come to me, for example, and say, Lucy, what EIS would you work with? I don't have EIS, but knowing that market, I could say, well, look at that one, but think about that. This is a good one, but just something to consider and watch out for. So I definitely think it helps you build more trust with your clients.
Definitely. And it's probably been one of the most consistent themes throughout the episode has been this idea of credibility and authenticity. And you often reference the Man in the Glass poem. It'd be great to share a little bit more about what that means for you.
Yeah. So I'm sure you've both had experience of this as well, where you go to conferences or events and there'll be a keynote or a motivational speaker at the end, and some resonate more than others. And whilst we were at Old Mutual Wealth, we had Francois Pienaar was our motivational speaker at this particular conference, the ex-South African rugby captain who captained the team through to World Cup success in South Africa back in '95, and he was sharing his story about personal accountability. So that you need to look at your teammates around that room. So you mentioned for your rugby days, you're in that locker room, in that changing room. You need to trust that your teammates they've all got a job to do. You trust that they're going to hold themselves accountable for the job that they've got to do. And he stood there and he recited this poem called "The Man in the Glass," and it was all just about, it doesn't really matter what other people think of you. Really, you need to be a good person. So it's only four little passages. I can share it if you want.
Go for it. I'd love to.
Yeah. So he goes. I forget the author, so apologies. No credit here for the author. But you can get what you want in your struggle for self, and the world can make you king for a day. But just go to that mirror and look at yourself and hear what that man has to say. For it isn't your husband, your father, your mother or wife whose judgment upon you should pass. The fellow whose verdict counts most in your life is the one staring back from the glass. He's the fellow to hear, never mind all the rest, for he's with you clear to the end, and you've passed your most difficult and dangerous test if the man in the glass is your friend. You can kid the whole world down your pathway of years and get pats on the back as you pass, but your lasting reward will be heartache and tears if you cheated the man in the glass.
Wow.
I've remembered it. That was the first challenge.
In the car on the way
that was the first challenge. But in all seriousness, it is. That was a struggle to remember, actually, to be fair.
Under pressure once the lights are on.
Yeah, that's one take. But it resonated with me. I got quite emotional when I heard it, because it was that just, if you've done a good job, if you've failed, if you've forgotten to do something or ignored something, you need to hold yourself accountable. My dad always said, you can get anything you want out of life, but it's always in the form you deserve. So yeah, that stuck with me. It's not something don't go around sharing it with people saying you must listen to this and you must do this. I think people need to find their own path in terms of personal brand and accountability and that sort of stuff. And if they want to invest time in that, then they will. But yeah, just for me, that's something that I've held quite.
That's a really nice reflection.
I think it's brilliant. I mean, Tom, I could sit here all afternoon. I'm sure Lucy's exactly the same, talking about these, and there's loads of bits that we haven't covered yet. I mean, things like consolidation and all that kind of thing. But I am mindful of time, and I think what you've just delivered then is so pertinent for people to consider and so poignant. If you could leave the Trusted Studio today, sharing one piece of advice for our audience, and it may be a plea for change, it may be a reframing of some ideas that you've talked about, what would you want our audience to take away from today's episode?
The one thing, I think, just try where you can to, two things, that's right. One, keep things simple. So we don't need any more complexity. The market doesn't need any complexity. Really encouraged by some of the endeavours and some of the initiatives that have been kickstarted by both our industry and government recently to help bring more awareness and education of financial products to the general population. 9% of people seeking advice, paying for advice last year it's just ridiculous. We need more people who are going to benefit from getting advice. So those endeavours have been noble. Keep things simple. Say 3 words instead of saying 30. I think people will thank you for that. And then also, I think we're very good at, as human beings, adding things, building more things, making things more just complicated, but just adding more product. The market doesn't need another passive MPS. It needs people to potentially hibernate stuff, incubate stuff, stop doing things, remove things. So I try and give people around me permission to just stop doing stuff. We might need some more retirement products, so focus on some of those areas rather than just doing more of what is there. When you go and book a holiday, you try and see how many sites you can see, how many restaurants you can eat, and how many steps you can get in a city break. We don't very rarely book a holiday. We just sit in one place, relax, eat in one restaurant. We often come back from a holiday and say, "Oh, I should book another holiday to get over that one." So just maybe subtract things, reduce things, and keep things simple.
It's been an absolute pleasure having you on. Thank you. And that's it. You're done.
Appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.